What is up, everybody? Welcome into Shout, a Buffalo football podcast, postgame edition. The Bills dropped to 11-5 on the season, a 13-12 ugly loss to the Philadelphia Eagles. The offense pretty much unable to do anything for most of four quarters, get going late, try to play the role of the comeback kids once again, and they fall a little short. Ryan, I told you going into this one, this kicker situation is a major issue. The Bills ran into that issue today. We're going to get into all of it. We're going to break down the game. We're going to talk about what it means, not only for the rest of the regular season, but kind of look ahead to beyond. We talk about, somebody says, are you in an interrogation room? No, we're in a post-game press area room up in outside the press box, and the Bills outside the stadium right now, it is absolutely downpouring. So that you wouldn't want to see that. The computer would die probably 5 minutes into the episode. So we had to go up here. It's a disappointing result for a team that it felt like things were starting to click together. And you think about what this defense did, and going into this game, everybody was worried about Saquon Barkley and this rushing attack and Jalen Hurts, and some of the stats that are coming out of this game are unbelievable. The Bills forced 4 straight 3-and-outs to end this game on defense. Jalen Hurts, you mentioned it going in, didn't complete a single pass in the second half, and the Bills end up on the losing end in a very, very difficult day in Buffalo, watching the New England Patriots hoist a division trophy and not have it go to week 18.
Yeah, this is absolutely a frustrating loss if you're a Bills fan, because if you look at the stats, the way the Bills defense performed today, holding the Eagles to a very low amount of first downs on third down, 17 total yards in the second half, 0 completions for Jalen Hurts. You would think with all of those stats, the Bills would have won this game, but the story of this team, once again, is they can't put together 4 quarters of offense. They just really struggle in that regard. And once again, that was the case tonight. For 3+ quarters, Buffalo couldn't get out of their own way. The offensive line was letting Josh Allen get hit far too often, with all 5 of his sacks coming with a 4-man front. So that's worrisome. This kind of gave me some Houston Texans type of vibes, where if a team has an elite defensive line, Buffalo's pass protection just isn't good enough. For as good as that unit is with run blocking, pass protection is a little bit of a weakness for them. They couldn't run the ball well. Josh Allen, it left a lot of plays on the field that, you can talk about the first fumble maybe being, or the fumble that was called on the field, maybe being an incomplete pass, but they kind of look at it as more of like a tuck rule type of issue, where they didn't look at it as a throwing motion. That took some points, potential points off the board. The horrendous sack that he took, where he rolled to his left, tried to come back around, took themselves out of field goal position again, or at least a 4th down scenario. So he was not good enough tonight either. And then at the end of the game, you scratch and claw, you get within 1 point, and then obviously Allen misses the throw. I had the Eagles winning this game because I said I didn't trust Buffalo's kicker, Michael Badgley. They went for 2 here for a good portion of it, because Badgley's first and only extra point was blocked earlier in this game. So a lot of reasons why they lost this, but the Bills did hang with the defending Super Bowl champs.
There is a glimmer or silver lining in all of this for me, and that is watching Josh Allen in this game as he was getting kind of beat up again, sacked 5 times, limping off the field at one point. That foot is not 100%. He got x-rays after the game. Sean McDermott said that they were negative, which is good. It's not broken, but obviously dealing with some type of injury there. It's still hampering him in this game. Even if the division is on the line next week, I am thinking, man, get him as healthy as possible before the playoffs and keep him off the field. And now at least what these results today do for you is it takes you out of having to play him next week. He'll probably go out there and maybe take a snap, keep the starting streak going, but I don't think he should play. And this is what we were talking about earlier in the week. And I felt like a lot of fans were like, oh, it's Josh Allen. He's the toughest guy in the NFL. He's going to play. Like, why are we talking about this? Is why we're talking about this. It affected him very early in this game. And I almost felt like it limited what he was able to do. He still was able to run this game a couple of times, but even kind of trying to evade a couple of potential sacks at certain times in this game, that wasn't the Josh Allen that we're used to seeing. So This is something that's going to continue to be an issue. And I don't know, you might have to just come to terms with the fact that he's probably going to be playing with an injured wheel the rest of the way.
Yeah, it's something you have to come to terms with. And that's a problem, because a big part of Josh Allen's game is the elusiveness, the ability to break out of tackles and gain yards. And now you're in a situation where I agree with you. Put him out there the first snap, hand it off, get him out of the game, give him some time to rest, recover. He's not going to be 100% for the playoffs, in my opinion, but get him as close to that number as you can, because you're going to need him to go on any kind of run this postseason. I look at the turnover on downs at the 1 yard line. Allen completely healthy. I think he gets into the end zone there. He's not able to. He did have a receiver to his right that he probably could have pitched it to at some point.
But also, Josh played a little bit frenetic in this game.
Right.
Like, you got to know in that situation, there was a couple plays in this game. He had Jackson Hawes wide open on what ended up being the fumble. And I agree. I know a lot of Bills fans were in the mentions talking about, oh, that was not a fumble. That was a forward pass. Fine. But you eliminate even having to be in that situation if you take that immediate opportunity to Jackson Hawes out in the flat. He had an opportunity, like you mentioned, there was probably a check down there or a throw that he could at least attempt. That was a lot of traffic that he had to make his way through on an injured foot. It's not an ideal situation.
No, and the bad sack that he took as well. He had Ty Johnson right there running across, where would it have been a first down? Probably not, but it's fourth and manageable or a field goal attempt versus what you saw there, where you put yourself out of field goal range, you put yourself out of going for it range, and you had to punt the ball. So, Allen is clearly trying to do a little bit too much, and a lot of the times he does that, you get a good result. But in games like this, there were many mistakes that he made.
All right, let me take a second here. Everybody take a deep breath. And I want to remind everybody what we were watching out there today. This is the defending Super Bowl champion Eagles defense. Then they looked exactly the part. Jalen Carter getting back for them was absolutely a difference maker. I mean, he made plays in this game. There was one play where he absolutely abused Osiris Torrance. That led to a sack. He obviously had to block the extra point. Him and Spencer Brown were chirping at each other. Spencer Brown said that he got actually punched in the face from Carter at one point in this game through the face mask. But go back to the Super Bowl last year. The Chiefs gave up 34 points and did not score until the third quarter in that game. This defense is as good as it gets. And what I think you can at least take from this is that the Bills found answers eventually, and there was some success in the passing game that we've just not seen over the course of the last month. And sure, would you have liked to have come back and won? Would you have liked it to look a little bit better earlier? Would you like to have Joe Brady to send these wide receiver screens on 3rd and long into the sun like has been requested multiple times? Yes, all those things can be true. But I also think there's a couple of things in this game, 3 in particular, that I think you can build upon coming out of this game. Number one, again, if maybe you have Matt Prater in this game, you're in a situation down at the goal line where you're kicking an extra point to win it with 5 seconds. And then it's a completely different conversation. This defense, this was the single most important, best performance by this Bills defense in 2025. I am 100% now saying that the Bills cannot put Terrell Bernard back on the field at middle linebacker unless there's an injury. And Ryan, I think you might even, because he's obviously hurt. Yes. So even if he makes his way back, that's going to be a piece of it. You might have to seriously consider, if Shaq Thompson goes down again, putting Andreessen out there or putting Dorian Williams out there and just seeing if that works. If you can have him shadow Shaq Thompson here and figure out a way. I know he doesn't wear the green dot. I know he can't call the defense. You got to get creative in a situation like this because Bernard can't go back on the field. It was totally different when Shaq Thompson was out there. And Brandon Cooks. Yes. We were, I think, rightfully critical of him for a couple of bad mistakes for his first couple games with the Bills. He was critical to them in this game. He made a couple of big plays, that 50-yard play down the field. And I thought he could have caught and run with it, but I think he wanted to play it safe, make sure that he hauled that thing in. That catch that he made in the fourth quarter to set up the would-be tying or game-winning touchdown, it was nails. It had shades. I saw everybody talking about David Tyree in the Super Bowl with the New York Giants, like pinning it up against his helmet. It was spectacular. So there's a lot of positives to take out of this game, considering how defeated you probably feel as a fan base and inside that locker room right now. And Sean was kind of alluding to that a little bit.
Yeah. Cooks is the biggest positive in my opinion coming out of this game on the offensive side of the ball, because we talked about the last 2 weeks and the bad drops. And we had some Bills fans saying, why would you put him out there again? And it's because he's the guy that can get open downfield. And he showed that 2 weeks in a row, bad drops, but he was getting open, and you want to work on that chemistry with he and Allen. And sure enough, early in this game, he's open downfield, 50-yard completion. In a big have-to-have-it moment in the fourth quarter, the ball's coming in at an odd angle, and he kind of catches it at first, bobbles it, brings it down, hauls that in, ends up going for over 100 yards. They need guys like that you're not just throwing those bubble screens and the underneath stuff. So this was a promising sign for him going into the, a week away from the playoffs. Obviously, week 18, I don't know how much the starters are going to play in this one, but knowing that you can build off of this performance defensively, right there with you. Terrell Bernard, and the injuries factored into this. He's a liability out there. He was a player, and I've said this multiple times, that was drafted to be a counter to how the Chiefs play on offense. The Bills don't have to worry about the Chiefs. They have to worry about some pretty physical teams, and Bernard just is not the answer at linebacker right now with the injury, with his size. The defense doesn't look great or the same without him out there. Shaq Thompson, though, a thumper, a veteran, he has looked the part. He has been great for this defense. I love what the Bills defense is doing. They're kind of like spinning the wheel and doing something different almost each and every play, it feels like, in terms of the looks they're giving other teams. Multiple sack opportunities tonight that were missed, but they also led to throwaways, led to plays that were still net negatives for the Eagles. So all things considered, an unbelievable performance for this defense too, with multiple starters out. Daquan Jones, Jordan Poyer, Bernard was a starter technically for this game and he exited. So they found ways to really limit the Eagles in this matchup, and that's another positive.
If you're watching on YouTube right now, we appreciate you joining us for this late night recap episode of Shout. Hit that like button, subscribe to the channel as well. The Bills in this game, if we look at it, I'm going to bring up the stats here right now so I can have them all. I mean, that's the one benefit of being in this little press area, is we can actually look at our computer screen here. Throughout the game consistently, I thought the Eagles did a really good job forcing the Bills to throw. And I think Joe Brady played into that a little bit. I thought that there were times, there were opportunities, and Sean kind of mentioned it, that there were a couple of second and longs where they maybe felt like they would have liked to have been in more manageable downs. But sometimes when your identity is so much built on being a running team, you have to trust that you're going to be able to dial it up and find a way to block. Like, they did not have answers for this pass rush early in this game. And I looked up at one point, I think it was late in the second quarter, early in the third quarter, Josh Allen had gone back to pass 17 times. That's too much in a game like this against a defense like this that is trying to get pressure on the quarterback and force turnovers. And the only reason they scored a touchdown in this game, and that's another credit to this defense, is because of the turnover. They got a short field, they go down immediately and score. And that's the one thing that Josh Allen, I felt like going in this game, talked about the Bills couldn't do. And that's the one thing that they did. And it was really on Allen on that spot.
Yeah. And we've talked about this. When the Bills protect the football, they generally win their matchups. When they turn it over or lose the turnover battle, that's usually when you have a bad situation or the Bills are on the wrong side of the outcome. And sure enough, that turnover, and I'm saying turnover loosely because I do think that you easily could have said that was a pass attempt that fell incomplete, but that was the outcome of the game. They score a touchdown on that drive. The rest of the game, you hold them to 2 field goals. They're scoreless in the second half of this matchup after going up 13-0 at halftime. You had every opportunity to win this game, but ultimately a turnover is what cost you.
Yeah, James Cook finished 20 carries for 74 yards in this one. He had 4 targets. He only was able to come down with 1 catch for 3 yards. So, they were trying to get him involved in the game. I didn't feel like his impact in the game was necessarily what it could have been. I thought in the second half, there were probably some opportunities for them to use him a little bit more. And this is something that I feel like we've been harping on this for a long time. I get they want Ty Johnson on the field in third downs, but I don't think you could take James Cook off the field in those situations.
Not in critical moments. And again, late in this game, where's James Cook? Not on the field. And that is going to hurt you come playoff time. You need your best players out there in the meaningful downs. And, as much as Ty Johnson means to this team, you cannot have James Cook off the field come playoff time and a have to have it moment, have to have it down. So hopefully that's something that they learn from as well. Hopefully with the pressure that they saw today. And again, a lot of the time it was like a tush-push situation, but I like when they brought in Alec Anderson as an extra O-lineman. They had success with both of those plays because of that. So, vary it, change it up with your personnel packages, go jumbo if you have to. This offense, though, needs to find something that helps them click and get moving a little bit sooner.
I saw a lot of people walking out of this stadium with their heads down. Obviously, that's an emotional ending to this game. When you feel like you get that close to it, it's going to be even more emotional next week because this is going to be the final home game regular season. And the way that it's trending right now, the Bills probably getting the 7 seed, depending on what happens next week. This could be the final game ever in this stadium, no matter what. And it's going to be emotional. And even if you're not coming down to the stadium, you want to make sure that you send out Highmark Stadium in style. And the best way to do that, even if you're hosting a party at home, is head over to Tops Friendly Markets and make sure you take advantage of Slider Sunday. Get ready for Slider Sunday your way with King's Hawaiian at Tops. Every Sunday, it's an opportunity to enjoy delicious sliders made your way. And now you can win big while doing it. Vote for your favorite slider weekly for a chance to win a man cave makeover. Grab your favorite King's Hawaiian products from Tops and craft the ultimate sliders to make your Sunday even more special. Visit topsmarkets.com/Slider Sunday. Where do you want to go next, Ryan?
Yeah, I guess next is looking at who could potentially come back for this team come playoff time. And it starts with Matt Prater. Prater, we were given an update. It sounds like he's getting very close to what Sean McDermott said, talked to him pregame. That was the word there. That's very encouraging because we've seen what this kicking unit looks like without him. And that's not to say Prater is without flaws. He's missed some extra points this year. But overall, the operations looked a lot better with him out there than what we've seen with Michael Badgley. So that's one thing, in my opinion.
Yeah, the other thing is the update on Ed Oliver, which obviously has Bills fans' ears perked up a little bit and maybe some concern level growing. And, listen, here's the thing. I know we've been talking quite a bit about Ed Oliver coming back and what it can mean for this defense. And I still think that it will if he can get back. But he's probably not going to be at 100%. And even without what Sean McDermott called a little bit of a setback with this week, he said he was, still making good progress, but a little bit of a setback this week. Now you have to wonder if that means that he doesn't get back at all this season, which changes the math a little bit. I do think, though, and you made the point a few minutes ago, this is a really encouraging performance. And I also think that you take out of this something that I think Sean McDermott has not been good at over the course of his career as a head coach. And that is putting rookies in a sink or swim opportunity. And they were forced into it with TJ Sanders today, right? Sure. They didn't have any more options. Larry Ogunjobi, he had to play. He was going to play a big chunk. TJ Sanders was out there in some really high leverage, important moments. And I'm very interested to get back on the rewatch of this tomorrow and see how much of an impact that he had in this game. I thought Deion Walker continues to play well. Another guy that got opportunities in this game, but we both were sitting there talking during the game saying how well he played, Andre Jones, a practice squad standout. I mean, the Bills might have to make some serious consideration about signing him to their active roster. I don't know if teams around the league are going to get a look at this guy and think about maybe signing him. I don't know if you necessarily have the wiggle room right now on your 53-man roster, but I'm encouraged about a couple of these performances, and I think it's a little bit of a downer on the heels of this game, knowing where this defense is kind of, working its way toward if Oliver can't make it back.
Yeah, it'll be really unfortunate because it seemed all season long like the goal was come playoff time, you might have Oliver back and out there, and maybe now. And he said, well, we might know more about the setback or more on Oliver this week. So I don't want to speculate too much, but maybe it is now. The Bills have to make a deeper run in the playoffs for it to be a possibility. Who knows? That's a significant loss if you can't get him out there based on, how much or how well he's played over the years, how dominant he was in those first 2 games this season before he left with this injury. But the encouraging sign is the way that they limited Saquon Barkley, the way they shut down this Eagles offense with TJ Sanders playing a big role, Deion Walker continuing his great rookie season, having Ogunjobi out there. And you're right, Jones Jr., after having almost the entire season on the practice squad, has really flashed at times and made some nice plays. He has that inside-outside versatility. He can play on special teams. So, if the Bills have an injury where, in the case of Bernard, if it's more serious, maybe that's your gymnastics to get him on that roster. Who knows? But he has made the most of this opportunity and really stood out.
If you're watching right now on YouTube, we appreciate you. Hit that like button, subscribe to the channel as well. Where do you want to go next?
Yeah, I guess next is looking at potential outcomes maybe based on next week's game. And Sean McDermott still doesn't know what the Bills are going to do in terms of playing their starters, playing their backups, what they're going to do. But as it sits right now, the Bills are the 7th seed in the AFC. Realistically, there's a chance that they move up to the 6th seed because you have the Chargers going and playing the Denver Broncos next week, with the Broncos trying to play for the 1 seed. Right. So if the Broncos win that game and the Bills beat the Jets, which you would think that even with Mitch Trubisky, there's a chance the Bills beat the Jets pretty handily. That would move them up to the 6th seed, which potentially would be going on the road to Jacksonville. Jacksonville today didn't look great. They've had some really good outings before this week, but this week it was a struggle for them. They were in a fight and they ended up pulling it out in the end. So, whether it's going on the road to Jacksonville, potentially going on the road and playing New England, who you have already beaten on the road, those are the 2 most likely outcomes based on the odds. The Bills can still claim the 5 seed, but you would need a lot to go in your favor for that to occur. And even if you get the 5 seed, potentially you're looking at a matchup against the Baltimore Ravens, because it's a winner-take-all matchup next week between the Steelers and the Ravens after Pittsburgh bungled their performance today against the Browns.
I don't think this would impact anything, but if you're the Patriots, do you kind of, as it sits right now, almost hoping you go down to 3 so you wouldn't have to host the Bills just because of the immediacy of what just happened there. Right. And I know it's hard to win that same game a month later or whatever it would end up being, but a lot of interesting matchups. I think one of the things that the Bills can just kind of accept with 2 weeks to go before the playoffs is like, it doesn't matter who you play. You're going to have to go on the road. You have to almost become these road warriors and get into that mentality. And I do think in a 1-week situation against any of these teams, and I know Houston has been a house of horrors for the Bills. Jacksonville has been a house of horrors for the Bills. I mean, go back to the 2017 playoff game. They lost their 9-6 a couple years ago. That was a pretty ugly game as well. Jacksonville's playing better ball for sure. There's not a team that I look at in this field, maybe outside of maybe the Ravens getting in next week. That's the one to me. And I know people are going to be like, oh, Lamar Jackson's hurt and they have not played very well. The Bills have really dominated that rivalry over the last couple of years. Right. And if there's one team that I'd be like, if I have to go on the road against Baltimore in January, I'm not a huge fan of that. I don't know.
Not a huge fan of that. The way Henry's running the ball too, looking at his performance against the Packers, and then the revenge factor. After that week 1 loss that the Ravens suffered, I think that they would love the opportunity to end Buffalo's season in the playoffs. So, any of these opportunities the Bills can win, but the opposite of that is true too. Any of these opportunities the Bills can lose. The AFC is wide open, and it holds true for Buffalo as well.
The kicker situation is going to be one that we're going to be watching closely. We'll have you updated on the Insider chat line. You can follow all the work over on all the website and social media channels as well. We'll figure out what ends up happening there. Tyrell Shavers made one heck of a catch today. And, this is a wide receiver room that's gotten a lot of grief that I think if we get to a point where the Bills win this game, I think that's one of the top storylines coming out of it is how they found a way in the passing game to really get going. In a game where Jalen Hurts finished with an abysmal barely 100 yards passing. He didn't complete a pass in the second half. I mean, it was bad for this Philadelphia offense. The Bills offense kind of got going throughout the game. It ended up being Josh Allen finishing with 282 passing yards on 23 of 35 passing. Brandon Cooks 4 for 101. Shavers with a couple of big catches. I thought, Shakir finishes with 35, but it was really important on a couple of key drives late in the game. And another thing I want to talk about, Khalil Shakir, after what is it now, 4 years where he has been intermittently used as a punt catcher, finally shed the role of punt catcher and became a punt returner on that one play where he saw it seam, hit it. He's got the ability with his run after catch ability to be a pretty good punt returner, I think. And we saw him get a little bit more aggressive today. And I think they need that a little bit more of the time. Real costly penalty, by the way. Something that continues to be a lingering issue for this special teams unit. Feels like they go 2 or 3 weeks where it gets really good. Then they have the mistakes. 40-yard line, they're going to start as the offense is struggling. Ray Davis has that great run back. Yeah. Holding penalty brings it all the way back to the 20. Those are 20 critical yards that you just, when your offense is struggling like that to get any kind of offense going, it almost takes all the momentum out of the offensive drive before it even happens.
Yeah, little mistakes like that can't happen. And even on the other side of the field early in the game, and I can't really blame Franklin for this. He kind of gets tripped up by an Eagles defender, runs into the punt returner for the Eagles, gets penalized for catch interference. And again, you're giving them 15 free yards. So the Bills have to clean it up on special teams. I think that they will. We've seen enough out of Ray Davis this year to know that he can be a game changer for this team as well, come playoff time. But for the punt returns, you're right. This is the first time we've really seen Shakir take the ball and go with it, not just fair catch it, not let it bounce and see where it goes, which, that was proved costly once or twice, or almost proved costly on one that looked like they're going to get pinned at the 1 yard line. So you need to tell Shakir, hey, this offense, they haven't had a full 4-quarter game, much if at all, this season. We need you to be able to flip the field for us at times too, much like Ray Davis does on kicks. And hopefully that resonates with him, because they need all 3 units if they want to make any kind of run this postseason.
It could be the end of the line for Keon Coleman. We're looking at another healthy scratch for him today. Gabe Davis was active. He wasn't a very big part of the game plan. It felt like they really wanted to get Tyrell Shavers and Cooks on the field quite a bit. Palmer was worked in as well. Made one good catch, had one that you would have liked him to have made. I think they're going to continue to lean into him because of the resources they spent on acquiring him, signing him in free agency. So I'm looking at this wide receiver room as you push into the playoffs, and I think you have Shakir and you have Shavers as locks every week, and Cooks. Those are the 3 big locks. Then you have Palmer, and then you have Davis. We'll see Keon Coleman very likely next week against the Jets in the final home game here. Is that something where it's a tryout, or do you think we get to the week 1 of the playoffs and Keon Coleman's not on the active roster?
It's a great question, because the way I look at it, Gabe Davis had 0 catches for 0 yards in this game. So if I'm Keon Coleman, I'm taking the most of this opportunity next week, where you're right. I would fully anticipate him being out there on the field and playing for the Bills and seeing heavy reps. So if I'm Sean McDermott and this coaching staff, I want to see, how does he block? I want to see, does he make any plays in the pass game with Mitch Trubisky in at quarterback, if that's the route that they go. This is going to be a trial run for him in a way, because if he does show out, are you really losing anything by benching Gabe Davis? I've been a proponent of saying the Bills know what they have in Gabe Davis, and I truly believe that. But Gabe Davis is not making a difference right now for this team. Tonight he didn't make any plays for this unit. So Coleman has a chance to kind of claim that number 5 job, but he's going to have to really stand out next week against the Jets.
All right, it's time for our Amtrak Hype Train Player of the Game Award. And I know this one's always, we could probably come up with a different idea to be like, in a loss, maybe a player that can get the GOAT award or something like that.
Right.
But in terms of a guy that really stood out for me in this game, I just think the way this defense looks when Shaq Thompson's on the field, it's just completely different. And this was a throwaway signing back in May or whenever the Bills ended up acquiring him. And I don't think anybody really had him a part of the competition. I mean, they just had re-signed Terrell Bernard. You had Matt Milano coming back. Dorian Williams was one of our favorite offseason storylines. And all Shaq Thompson has done is come in here when he's been on the field. This defense has looked different. And, you look at his final stat line, and it doesn't jump off the board at you. I mean, 3 tackles, 1 tackle for a loss. But there was a quarterback hit that I thought that he was close to. He was spying Jalen Hurts a bunch of times in this game, resulted in at least 1 incomplete pass, had a huge tackle for a loss on a run play, and he was just around the ball. And that, to me, was a difference maker. Amtrak Hype Train Player of the Game award for me is Shaq Thompson.
Yeah, and when you're spying, that doesn't show up in the stat sheet necessarily, but if you're forcing an incomplete pass, you're not letting Jalen Hurts take off and run with the football, you're doing your job, and he was great in that role tonight. Showing the Bills that you probably need a bigger linebacker with that athleticism that can move sideline to sideline going in the future. He's done everything to show me that he deserves another contract if he's willing to come back next year. After playing only 6 games in the last 2 seasons, you can see why you and I thought maybe this was a throwaway, but unbelievable addition for the Bills. For me, I have to go with Brandon Cooks. Cooks comes in here after 2 really bad drops the last 2 weeks and goes over 100 yards. 2 major catches for this squad. First one, obviously, the Bills did not get any points off because of the turnover, but he set them up in a spot to score points. Later in the game with the Bills trailing, again, huge play down the field to help the Bills score that touchdown late and give them a chance to win the game.
Head over to Amtrak.com right now. Get yourself hooked up with any of your holiday or beyond travel. No baggage fees on any train ride, free Wi-Fi on every single ride, and then kids ride 50% off all the time. Amtrak.com for more. It's going to be a big week. Obviously, the last game right here inside the stadium. Man, it's going to be crazy. Are you coming up for that game next week, or where you at?
Time permitting, it depends on the time when it's announced. I would like to be here for the last game, obviously, for a lot of reasons. It's going to mean a lot to the fan base, whether it's Mitch Trubisky playing the majority of the game or not. So, yeah, as long as this isn't a weird time, this looks like a 1 p.m.er, whether it's on whether it's on Sunday or maybe a Saturday game as well, too. So I'd like to say that I'll be here for it.
All right. Well, keep it locked on the Shout, all the channels, YouTube, Facebook, X. Follow us on all the audio channels as well. Enjoy what's left of your weekend, and we'll see you next week, everybody. Take care.